Hey, my puppies, this is Melody Fletcher with Deliberate Receiving, where the law of attraction finally makes some freaking sense. Today's burning question comes from Awesome Dudette, who wants to know, Hi, Melody, what does the law of attraction say about people of mixed heritage? My parents are from two very different countries or cultures, opposite sides of the world. One is Western and the other East Asian. Is there a reason for more people now choosing to come in as multicultural or of mixed backgrounds? I've never felt like I totally belonged with either group, and I do feel that this caused me a lot of contrast in my early years. Now I believe these circumstances have given me a stronger affinity to connect with humanity on a larger scale without needing to belong to a national or cultural group. Well, you put your finger right on it, Awesome Dudette, because that is exactly what's happening, and that is exactly why it's happening. Are there more people mixing races now than ever before? Yes, there are. Are there more people than ever growing up with different cultural backgrounds, differing cultural backgrounds, two or even more cultural backgrounds in their family? Yes, there are. And you can blame that on increased mobility, more communication. It really isn't that big a deal now to fly to Asia, whereas 100 years ago, travel to Asia was not as easy. Travel to Africa was not as easy. Travel to South America was not as easy. Travel to Europe was not as easy. Now you hop on a plane and a few hours later you're there. So it's much easier for us to meet people from other cultures and therefore also have babies together. Now, why would we choose to come in as a multicultural being? Well, I have some experience with this myself. I am the product of a German mother and an American father, and I grew up on both continents quite a bit. I spent more time outside of the United States than in the United States, but I also, like you, never really felt like I belonged to either, and I still don't. And I've come, like you, to the place where I see that as a positive rather than a negative. And I really think that what's happening now is that people are coming in to be able to experience more than one culture so that they're not locked into a culture, because a culture is nothing but a set of perspectives. And when you experience more than one culture, which you can do by growing up in different cultures, but also by traveling extensively and immersing yourself in other cultures and living in other countries, you're able to gain access to a completely different set of perspectives that you otherwise would not have been able to see. And I think that gives us a broader perspective, and it gives us also a chance to connect more with each other, because it's really easy to hate somebody across the pond and ascribe all kinds of negative qualities to them if you don't know them and you've never met them. But if they're actually in your reality, if you've met them, or they're actually in your family, then you're going to have a much harder time ascribing all kinds of negative things to them, and making all kinds of assumptions about them, because you know them. You have an awareness of that culture. And then that opens you up to kind of realizing that any assumption about some other culture that you don't know could also be completely made up and arbitrary, because you don't know somebody if you haven't met them. You cannot just assume that, oh, well, people from that culture are like this and this and this. Once you have opened yourself up to more than one culture, it becomes much easier, in other words, to be aware of the connectedness between us, of the connection that you have, that those are people too. And just because they do things differently doesn't necessarily mean that's worse than how we do it. It could even be better or just different. Yeah? And I think that a lot of people are coming in now, already right off the bat getting a broader perspective by having different cultures in their family to begin with, so that they have that jumping off point where now they don't have to sort of push against the, let's be fair, ignorance, that basically states us against them. Those are the outsiders and we are the insiders. When you already grow up with being an insider or an outsider, we often feel like outsiders in both cultures, but being able to have some understanding of two or more cultures, then that gives you a better chance of not ascribing, not having such an ignorant point of view, let's put it that way, that other people out there are different from us, fundamentally speaking, at a soul level, that they're somehow bad or worse than us. We see the sameness in ourselves. We're able to find the common ground. And once you do that with two different cultures, it becomes much, much easier to do it with other cultures as well. This is all part of the awakening of humanity. This is all part of the grand waking up that is happening at the moment. The vibration is rising. People are becoming more tolerant. I know that it seems like there's more and more violence in the world, and that is also happening because of these kinds of cultural clashes that we just talked about, where people see it as us against them rather than understanding that we're all the same. But it really, I don't want you to despair about this. This is actually a really hopeful message, because even with all of the conflict going on right now, that's just happening because we've been holding on to a very ignorant point of view for a long time, and we're finally waking up from that, realizing how painful that is and fighting against it. And once we're through that, then a large number of people on the globe will have a much broader view, a much more compassionate view towards other races, other cultures, other countries, other whatever, insert label here. People who they have formerly seen as very different from them and in a very sort of judgmental way. We're able to get rid of the judgment. And you are one of the people who has come through to be able to take that jumping off point of multiculturalism right from the start, so that you don't have as far to go. You can go further than somebody, for example, who's come in to a very homogenous existence where they're never, ever, ever confronted with any other cultures whatsoever. I hope that I've answered your question. If you found this video helpful, then please consider sharing it with somebody who will find it beneficial as well. And if you'd like to add to the discussion, if you have something to say about this, which just about everybody does, then please leave a comment or come and join the community at deliberatereceiving.com. But please be respectful. This can be a very, very touchy subject for people. So I ask only that you add to the conversation, that you come from the place that you're adding something to the conversation, you're keeping the conversation going, rather than making a comment that is trying to shut it down because you don't agree with something that I've said or don't agree with something that somebody else has said. So this is a community, and we want to keep it that way. Until next time, I'm sending you huge, happy, shiny puppy hugs, and I will see you later. Bye.